The House That Kept Their Names. Chapter 1. The morning she left. Silence filled the house the morning she left, thick enough that even the floorboards held their breath. Her cup waited on the table, a thin ring of coffee drying like a small surrender. I touched the porcelain, hoping some warmth had stayed behind, but it was already cold. Outside, the sky sagged with a storm that felt strangely familiar, as if it had been following us for years. And in that heavy quiet, I understood she had not left to be found. I walked through the kitchen like it was a place I had never been. The chairs looked distant. The sink was full of yesterday's dishes we'd forgotten to wash. She hated that. I closed the faucet even though it hadn't been running, out of habit or guilt. Her coat was missing from its hook by the door. The blue one she wore only when she felt unsure of her own mind. She once told me it made her feel anchored. Like I still belong somewhere, she'd said. I hadn't known she needed anchoring. Not until now. The wind pushed against the windows, tapping like an impatient guest who'd waited long enough. I opened the door and stepped onto the porch. The air smelled of wet leaves and old memories. Clouds rolled low, thick and bruised, as if the sky had been in a fight it hadn't won. I could feel the storm swelling behind the horizon. Across the yard, the neighbor's dog barked once, then quieted, as if even it knew something had changed. I went back inside. The house felt smaller. Every corner seemed to hold an echo of her. A laugh. Sigh. A question she once asked me and I never answered. I moved through the rooms like I was searching for a misplaced truth. In the bedroom, the drawer on her side of the bed was open. Not empty but light, lighter than it should have been. The photograph of us at the lake was gone. The scarf I bought her in Santa Fe was also missing. She'd taken only the things that held her together. She'd left everything else behind. I sat on the bed and felt it shift under my weight. The sheets smelled faintly of cedar shampoo. I pulled her pillow closer, knowing it wouldn't help. It didn't. The storm cracked open somewhere in the distance. A low rumble traveled across the floorboards and into my chest. It felt like memory trying to claw its way forward. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. A single message from Samuel. Heard the storm's headed your way. You good? I didn't want to answer, but I typed she's gone. It took him less than a minute to reply. Which gone do you mean? I stared at the screen. There were too many kinds of gone. I set the phone face down. The room darkened as clouds swallowed the morning light. I stood again, unable to sit. Movement helped me think. Or maybe it helped me avoid thinking. I walked back to the kitchen and poured fresh coffee, though my hands shook slightly as I lifted the pot. The first sip burned my tongue. Good. Pain meant something was still real. A soft knock rattled the door. 3 short taps. Familiar. It was Samuel. He didn't wait for me to answer before opening the door. He stepped inside with his jacket half-zipped and rain in his hair. You look like hell, he said. I feel worse. He set his keys on the counter. Did she leave a note? No. Did she say anything last night? I shook my head. She went quiet around dinner. I thought she was tired. She's been tired a long time, he said. The word struck deeper than he intended. Samuel saw it. He lifted his hands. I didn't mean it like. No, you're right, I said. She has been. He pulled out a chair and Saturday. You want to talk about it? No. Good, he said. I'm here anyway. I sat across from him, the table between us feeling like a border of things we didn't want to name. The wind moaned through the cracks in the windows. He looked around the kitchen. Feels empty in here, he said. It is. He took a breath. Do you want me to help you look for her? No. Do you know where she went? Yes. You going after her? I paused. Probably. Weather shifted outside, the sky turning a deeper shade of threat. He leaned forward. Then you should get going before the roads flood. I can't, I said. Not yet. The truth hung between us. Heavy. Wet. Unwelcome. Samuel drummed his fingers on the table. You think she wants you to find her? No, I said quietly. That's the problem. He nodded once. Then his voice softened. What happened between you two? I mean this time. I rubbed my eyes trying to find a place to start. She said she felt invisible. You made her feel that way? I didn't know she did, I said. But yes. How long? Years probably. He exhaled. People don't leave for something small. I know. You still love her? He asked. The question cut clean. I didn't hesitate. Yes. Well, he said, that's something. It doesn't seem like enough. It rarely is, he replied. But it's something to stand on when everything else shakes loose. A flash split the sky. Thunder cracked a moment later. Samuel rose. If you need anything, I'm around. Thanks. He touched my shoulder before he left. Not a gesture of comfort but of recognition. The kind men use when words are brittle. When the door closed, the house felt even more cavernous. I finished my coffee and rinsed the cup out of habit. Then I walked to the living room. Her book lay open on the arm of the sofa. A pressed leaf marked the page. I picked it up and ran my finger along the brittle edge. She always pressed leaves into books when she felt uncertain. A way to keep something alive, she once told me. Now this one felt like a small dried warning. The storm approached the house like a slow train rumbling closer. The window panes trembled. Rain hammered the roof in sharp bursts. I turned on the lamp. The light flickered weak against the storm's bulk. The phone buzzed again. This time I let it ring out. I wasn't in the mood for concern or pity. I walked back to the front door, thinking I could breathe better outside. The air was thick with rain and earth, and the sky looked like iron turning molten. I stepped out onto the porch. Wind tore at my shirt. The trees bent under the force of the approaching storm. The horizon blurred into a sheet of dark water. Somewhere far off, a branch snapped. The road stretched out before me, the direction she had gone. I knew it the way you know the path of a wound you gave yourself. She drove toward the old lighthouse every time she needed to think. She said the place felt honest. No pretense in a coastline, she'd say. Just truth and erosion. I clung to the wooden railing and watched the road. For a moment I thought I saw movement, a flash of blue. Her coat, maybe. Or nothing at all. Thunder rolled over me. I went inside and grabbed my own coat. I stuffed her book into my pocket without thinking. Then I grabbed the keys off the counter. They were cold in my hand, almost aching. The storm roared as I started the car. The engine coughed once, then steadied. I drove down the gravel road, tires slipping on the wet stones. The windshield wipers struggled against the rain. Water streaked across the glass like frantic handwriting. I reached the main road and slowed. The world looked washed out, like someone had erased the colors. The wind whipped the trees into frantic gestures. Lightning flared, revealing the landscape in harsh, momentary detail. As I drove, memories pushed forward, some gentle, some sharp. The day we met in the bookstore, both reaching for the same copy of The Sun Also Rises. The night she told me she loved me as if it were a confession. The argument by the river 2 years ago, where she said she felt like she was fading and I told her she was imagining things. The silence afterward. All the silences afterward. Rain pounded the roof. I gripped the wheel tighter. The lighthouse sat on a cliff that overlooked the entire bay. The road leading up to it twisted and rose sharply. I followed it now, feeling the tires slide. The storm slashed at the windshield. The car shuddered. Halfway up the hill I pulled over. The wind was too strong. The road too narrow. I shut off the engine and stepped out into the storm. Rain soaked me instantly. I shielded my eyes and looked up toward the lighthouse. Its beam cut through the dark in wide, slow arcs. I climbed the path, shoes slipping in the mud. The storm pushed against me as if trying to turn me back. When I reached the top, the lighthouse loomed like a weary sentinel. Its door was half open. Rain slapped the inside walls. I stepped through the threshold. The air inside was cold and smelled of old stone. The light above hummed. I climbed the spiral stairs, gripping the railing. Halfway up I heard a sound. A breath. A small, sharp inhale. I stopped. My heart pushed at my ribs. Anna, I called. Silence. Then, yes. Her voice carried like a frayed thread. I climbed the last few steps and reached the landing. She stood by the window, her back to me, her blue coat darkened by rain. Wind whipped her hair across her face. She didn't turn. I stepped closer. You left without saying a word. I had nothing left to say. That's not true. She inhaled. Then maybe I had nothing left to say to you. Lightning illuminated her profile. The storm boiled behind her. She looked both fragile and unbreakable. Anna, I said, Please look at me. She shook her head. If I look at you, I'll stay. And I can't stay. You think running is the answer? It's the only thing I haven't tried. Her voice cracked, soft but deep. I took another step. Tell me why you left. She touched the window frame, her hand trembling. Because you stopped seeing me, she whispered. And when someone stops seeing you, you disappear. I see you now. She finally turned. Her eyes were storm-tired. Too late, she said. A gust of wind slammed against the lighthouse, making the walls tremble. The beam of light swept across her face. We can fix this, I said. No, she replied. We can't fix what you never believed was broken. I opened my mouth, but the wind roared again, drowning out the words. She stepped back away from me toward the stairs. Anna, don't follow, she said. Not yet. Why not? She paused at the top of the stairs. Rainwater ran down her coat in thin, shining streams. Because if you follow me now, she whispered, you'll hear the part I've been trying not to say. What part? She stared down the stairwell, as if afraid of her own voice. That I didn't just leave, she said. I'm running from something I should have told you long ago. Lightning crashed. The lighthouse shook. I stepped toward her. Tell me, I said. She closed her eyes. I can't, she whispered. Not until you're ready. I reached for her. But she was already descending the stairs, swallowed by the storm-dark spiral below. And as the thunder swallowed her footsteps, I knew one thing with cold, absolute certainty. Whatever she was running from, it wasn't the storm. It was me. Chapter 2: The Echo After. Morning came slow, dragging a pale gray light behind it like a tired apology. The storm had passed some time before dawn, leaving the world washed and quiet, as if the night had said too much. I woke on the lighthouse floor, wrapped in a cold ache I didn't remember choosing. Rainwater dripped through the cracks above me. The beam had gone still. For a moment I didn't know where I was. Then the memory of her voice, her silhouette, her trembling hand on the railing, returned in a slow, painful wave. I sat up. My clothes were stiff with dried rain. My head throbbed with a tired pulse. The lighthouse stairs twisted up into silence. She wasn't there. She hadn't been there for hours. Anna, I called, knowing I wouldn't hear anything back. My voice echoed, thin and lonely. I stood, brushed dirt from my jacket, and climbed the stairs to the lantern room. The glass was streaked white with salt and rain. The sea below was calm, wide, indifferent. Gulls circled above the cliff, calling out as if they were mocking the idea that anything meant anything at all. I pressed my hand to the window, the cool surface grounding me for a moment. She had stood exactly where I now stood. She had looked out at this same gray water and chosen to walk away from me again. Was it me she feared? Or something else entirely? Something I had never bothered to see? A familiar shame rose in my throat. I swallowed it hard. The lighthouse felt wrong without her. Hollow. I walked down the stairs, each footstep sounding like a slow surrender. Outside, the wind had softened. The path down the cliff was slick with mud, but manageable. I took it carefully, one hand brushing the wet stones. Her footprints were faint but still visible, small impressions leading away from the lighthouse and down the hill. Then, halfway across the field, they vanished into the storm wash. The night had erased her. I reached my car and opened the door. The engine started with a reluctant cough. I sat there for a long moment, staring at the empty road, knowing exactly what waited for me at the end of it. More silence, more unanswered questions. Still I drove. The road curled along the coast like a ribbon someone had dropped after losing interest. In daylight, the landscape looked gentler, softer, but I felt no comfort from it. The storm had left the world spotless, but it had left me torn open. When the house came into view, I pulled into the driveway and turned off the engine. The yard was scattered with branches and wet leaves. A single shutter banged against the side of the house. I stepped out. The air tasted of salt. The silence here was thicker than in the lighthouse. Inside, everything was exactly as we'd left it. The chair still stood crooked by the kitchen table. Her cup still sat beside the sink. The ring of dried coffee had grown darker. I touched the cup again. Still no warmth. The house creaked as it settled, or as it remembered. I walked to the living room. Her book lay on the arm of the sofa, its pressed leaf still marking the page. I opened it. The leaf was brittle, cracking at the edges. The page held a single line underlined in pencil. Some people leave to be found. Others leave to stay lost. Her handwriting. Small. Controlled. Afraid of its own meaning. I closed the book and sat down. My hands rested in my lap like they didn't belong to me. The door swung open without warning. Samuel walked in without asking permission. Again. You look worse today, he said. I slept on a stone floor. That'll do it. He shut the door behind him, brushing rainwater from his jacket. Any sign of her? No. Did you find anything? A note? A message? Anything at all? I shook my head. He sighed and sat beside me. You want coffee? No. That's a lie, he said, getting up anyway. You always want coffee. He moved around the kitchen with the quiet familiarity of someone who'd spent half his life here. He poured water, scooped grounds, set the pot to brew. The smell hit the air like a memory waking up. He came back with 2 mugs, handed one to me. Drink. I took a sip. Burned again. But it felt grounding. Samuel leaned back against the sofa. Eyes on me. Tell me what happened last night. I told him. Slowly. Carefully. From the moment I saw the lighthouse through the rain to the instant she disappeared down the stairs. Samuel listened, brow tight, jaw set. When I finished, he asked, and she didn't tell you anything else? No. Nothing about where she was going next? No. Nothing about what she was afraid of? That's the thing, I said. My voice felt small. She never said she was afraid. But she looked like someone carrying something heavy. Like what? He asked. I don't know. You sure? I looked at him. Why are you asking it like that? Because, he said, I've known her almost as long as you have. And Anna doesn't just vanish unless something's wrong. Something has been wrong, I said. Not like this, he replied. A quiet fell between us. Rain tapped on the window. The ocean hummed beyond the cliffs. Samuel leaned forward, elbows on his knees. You want my advice? Not really. You're getting it anyway, he said. You need to talk to Elise. My jaw tightened. Elise. She was close to Anna. Closer than you think. I didn't think they were talking anymore. They weren't, he said. That's why you need to go. That makes no sense. It does if you know Elise, he replied. I stared at him. She never liked me. She didn't hate you, he said. She just thought you didn't see things clearly. What things? He met my eyes. Anna. The words hit harder than he realized. I took another sip of coffee, letting the heat settle somewhere below my ribs. Where is Elise now? I asked. Her bookstore, he said. She opens at noon. You think Elena told her something? I think she told Elise things she didn't tell you, Samuel said. And I think Elise knows where she is now. I let the silence stretch. I didn't want to ask the next question, but it came out anyway. You think Anna's in danger? Samuel didn't answer right away. His eyes shifted toward the window, toward the still dark clouds gathering offshore. I think, he said slowly, that something's happening that you don't fully understand. And if you want to find Anna, you need answers. Elise can give you at least one. I stood. Fine. I'll go. Samuel nodded and set his cup on the table. I'll drive. No. I'll take my car. You shouldn't be alone, he said. That's my choice. He studied me for a moment, then exhaled. All right. But you call me if anything feels off. Anything. I will. He waited a beat. Do you mean that? Yes, I said. Good. He stood and grabbed his jacket. I'll check back in a couple hours. Thank you. He looked at me, and for a moment the room felt less heavy. Go find her, he said softly, before she goes somewhere you can't follow. He opened the door and stepped outside. The wind caught it, slamming it shut behind him. I finished the last of my coffee and put the cup in the sink. Then I grabbed my keys and headed out. The bookstore sat in the old part of town, tucked between a bakery and a thrift shop. A faded sign above the window read, Tide and Timber Books. The paint peeled like old bark. The windows were dusted with salt. I stepped inside. A small bell chimed overhead. Elise looked up from behind the counter. Her dark hair was piled into a loose knot. Her reading glasses sat low on her nose. She wore a look that said she anticipated trouble and didn't want it. "You're early," she said. "You're open." "Not for you," she replied. But she didn't tell me to leave. I walked toward the counter. She closed her book and folded her hands. "You're here about Anna," she said. "Yes. And you think I know where she is. I think you might." She inhaled through her nose, slow and steady. "What did she tell you?" "Nothing," I said. "That tracks." "Elise," I said, "please. I just need to know she's all right." "Do you deserve to know that?" she asked. The question cut clean, sharper than anything Samuel had said. "Elise." She stood. "Anna is." She stopped herself. Her eyes moved past me to the window. "She's complicated." "I know that." "No," she said sharply. "You know the parts of her she showed you. But you didn't see the rest. You didn't want to." "What rest?" Elise walked around the counter and stood in front of me, arms crossed. "Let me ask you something. Did you ever notice when she pulled away during conversations?" "Yes." "And did you ask why?" "I tried." "Did you push?" "If she said she didn't want to talk, I didn't force her." Elise shook her head. "That's the problem. She didn't need someone to force her. She needed someone to see she was drowning." I felt my chest tighten. "Why didn't you tell me any of this before?" "Would you have listened?" she asked. I didn't answer. Elise exhaled. The anger softened into something sadder. "She came here 2 days ago," she said. "Before the storm." My pulse kicked. "What did she say?" "She didn't say much. But she looked frayed, like a thread pulled too tight. She asked me for the keys." "The keys?" "To the cabin," she said. My breath caught. "Elise, she can't be there." "She is," Elise said quietly. "She left something there years ago. Something she told me she would only return to if she reached a breaking point." "What did she leave?" "I don't know," Elise said. "Or I do, but it's not my place to tell you." "Elise." "Don't," she said. "If she wanted you to know, you'd know." I stepped back, feeling the weight of that. Elise met my eyes. "She's not running from you," she said softly. "Not entirely." "Then from who?" Elise hesitated, looked toward the floor, then whispered. "From herself." Her voice cracked on the last word. I felt something sink inside me. "She needs space," Elise said. "But she also needs someone to show up when she's scared." I showed up. "You showed up last night," she said. "She needed you to show up long before that." Her words landed hard. Accurate. Unavoidable. "Do you want the address?" she asked. "Yes," I breathed. She scribbled something on a small notepad, tore the page off and handed it to me. "She might not let you in," she warned. "I'll take that chance." I turned toward the door. Before I reached it, Elise spoke again. "Wait." I stopped. "There's something else," she said. "When she came here, she wasn't alone." A slow ache spread through my chest. "Who was she with?" Elise looked almost afraid to say it. "A man. Tall. Worn-looking. Someone I've never seen before." My heartbeat changed tempo. "What did he look like?" I asked. "Older than you. Weathered. Like he lived outdoors." She spoke to him like she owed him something. The floor seemed to tilt under me. "Elise, are you telling me?" "I'm telling you to be careful," she said. I left the shop without another word. The bell chimed behind me. Outside, the wind picked up again. The clouds shifted, gathering weight. I looked down at the note in my hand. The cabin's address. A place we had promised never to return to. A place where she had left something I hadn't noticed. A place she had gone to with a man I'd never met. I folded the paper and slipped it into my pocket. Then I walked to my car, started the engine, and drove toward the truth she had buried years ago, hoping it wouldn't tear her away from me forever. Chapter 3 continued. Echo after. The town around them had softened with dusk. Lamps flickered on porches. A slow rain began, the kind that darkened the pavement in patient strokes. Claire kept her pace steady, but her shoulders carried tension like a harness. Ethan noticed it and said nothing. They reached the old library. Its stone pillars rose like quiet guardians. She hesitated at the door. "Inside," she said. "It'll be empty at this hour." He followed her into the wide, cool hall. The air smelled of dust and linen. A single desk lamp glowed, left on by someone careless or sentimental. They walked between tall shelves that whispered when the rain hit the roof. Claire stopped near the philosophy aisle. "My father stood here the last time I saw him," she said. He said the building hummed when the rain came, as if the books were remembering. Ethan touched the nearest shelf. The wood felt dry and tired. "Maybe he heard something you didn't," he said. She smiled without joy. "Or maybe he wanted me to think he was made of mystery." A heavy silence settled. The first real silence of the night. "You said you had questions," she murmured. "Ask one." He didn't rush. He watched her hands. They were shaking slightly. "Why tonight?" he asked. "Why bring me back into this?" Claire lowered her eyes. "Because I found something," she said. "And I didn't want to face it alone." She reached into her coat and pulled out a small metal box. Ethan stared at it. "That's his," he said. "I remember." "Yes." She opened it carefully. Inside was a thin stack of letters. Old paper tied with a fraying cord. The top envelope had his name written in the father's unmistakable blue ink. "Your father wrote to you," she said, voice soft. "All these years." "He never sent them." Ethan stepped back. The rain deepened on the roof. "He told me he had no words left," he whispered. Claire shook her head. "He had too many." She offered him the box, but he didn't take it. "Read the first one," she said. "Please." Reluctant, he opened the envelope. The letter inside was short, bare, almost severe in its honesty. Ethan read the first line aloud because he couldn't help it. "My son, silence is not the absence of truth. It is only the echo before it reaches you." Ethan blinked hard. "He wrote this after he left?" "He wrote it the week before he disappeared," Claire said. A tremor passed through Ethan's voice. "Why did you wait to show me?" She stepped closer, rainlight catching her cheek. "Because," she said, "I needed to know if you still believed he was a man worth grieving." Ethan lifted his eyes. "And if I didn't? Then I'd have burned the rest," she whispered. He stared at her. "You would have?" "Yes. To spare you." He had no answer. The lamp hummed behind them. Footsteps echoed somewhere near the far aisle, faint and irregular. Claire stiffened. "Did you hear that?" "Yes," Ethan said quietly. They listened. Another step. Slow. Then another. Too deliberate to be the building settling. Claire's breath trembled. "I locked the door," she whispered. "Someone's here," Ethan said. The footsteps stopped. Then a voice rose from the dark of the corridor. A voice neither of them had heard in years. A voice that should not have been possible. "Claire," it said. "Ethan." Ethan felt the letter slip from his fingers. Claire grabbed his wrist. "No," she breathed. "Not tonight. Not." The voice spoke again, closer this time. "I knew you'd come back. Both of you." Ethan swallowed. His heart clenched against his ribs. "Claire," he said, "tell me you locked the door." "I did," she whispered. "But locks don't matter to the dead." The lamp flickered once and went out.